Oh, unless you do, then you don't know me.
No, there it goes. Yay! There it goes. Says Morgan. Um,
Did I ever tell you I didn't like my name at one point when I was younger?
I didn't like mine either. It was real plain, and everybody kept calling me Kelly Bundy or Kelly Kapowski.
I just feel like that. I felt like Morgan didn't give a respectable nickname. Like
Yeah.
all of my family, like my cousins and stuff, everybody had like a cute nickname, and I knew that I didn't want to be called Mo because my name is not Mogan, and I and like when people call me Morgie, that's technically not a nickname because it's the same syllables that Morgan is.
This is.
So it
I
made me.
got Kale. I dealt with Kale for a while,
That's why I
but
call you.
then R. Kelly messed that up. so, so I was like, I don't know about Kale anymore. So Kelly is fine. I mean, I like really short names, but can't get no shorter than M and K. um, but did we? Oh, I forgot my cookies. But they're right there. I have
I,
cookies. So this is a new episode of Cookies in Christ, and today we are going through Genesis 6:1 through 10:32. Morgan is going to lead today, so I'm really excited because I like her flow and her style. So
y'all ready? I'm seeing the chats
I'm
yet.
pretty much ready. Hold on a second. I do want to get into the chat, so you can go ahead and you can.
I hope people are here and I hope y'all are ready. So just to kind of, I guess, catch people up to where we are. We last left off with Cain and Abel, the story of Cain and Abel, and basically the second sin of humanity because Adam and Eve were the first sin. Um, Cain and Abel, jealousy, brotherhood, murder, which left us with the birth of Seth. And Seth basically assumed the mission that God had assigned to Abel's life, which is to be the father of many great nations. Okay. So then we kind of recap like the lineage. So you had Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalo, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and then we ended up at Noah. So back then, people used to live super long. So we're talking about roughly 1,000 years from the time of Cain and Abel to where we are taking place for tonight's study. And basically during this time, sin was running rampant. It was like the coronavirus. Just you got it, you got it, you got it. Everybody was out here wilding. And God was pretty much over it. Like he was just like, I don't know how much longer I could do this. So his first was to shorten humans' life. So back then, the average lifespan, like people were living like until they're 900. So he was like, I got something. I'm gonna take their lifespan down to about 120.
Mm-hmm.
But that still didn't really do much for him. He was like, you know what? Look at him. Look at him. So he just wanted to wipe the slate clean. Like I thought of an etch a sketch. You know how you spent all this time etch a sketch, and then he was like, period. Like, no, I'm so done. So luckily for us, and when I say he was sick and tired, he was even sick and tired of the animals. I don't even know what the animals did.
Collateral damage.
Just,
This is my association.
he was just like, that's it. But lucky for us, one man did find favor with God, and that was Noah. And so it starts off in the section, and basically starting off at Genesis 6:9. So it just accounts for Noah and his family. And it says that Noah was righteous, and he basically had a pretty solid relationship with God. Cool. We like it, we love it. And so God basically pulled him to the side and was like, look, I'm about to shut this all the way down. It's last call. It's a liquidation sale. Everything must go. But I have an assignment for you. I want you to build a boat, make sure it's waterproof, test it out. It needs to be this high, this long, this wide, these many layers, all that. Fill it with every kind of animal, one male, one female. Go ahead and grab your wife and your 3 sons and their wives. They can come too. And then go ahead and get on board. Make sure you have enough food to keep y'all alive because y'all gonna be on here for a little while. So yeah. And matter of fact, bring some animals to sacrifice too, because you're gonna need that. And boom, without question, Noah did everything that God asked. Like he dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's, got it done. I think it's interesting here that Noah was 600 years old when he got this
Mhm.
message from God. Um, but he did it. He executed it, and he was 600 years old when the flood water started, and it said like the second month, the 17th day of the second month, basically February 17th. I wrote it down. So when we think about flooding, or when I think about flooding, like, or just constant rain, I'm just thinking about rain strictly from the sky. But it literally said that water was coming from the ground and the sky. So it was just like there was no escaping it. And I was thinking, how much water do you need to drown a fish? Because they can swim. Like, that's a lot of water. Swim. And so water was coming, and like it to basically cover like the peaks of the highest mountain. And so for about
Mhm.
5 months, that's how long things were going on. So now we in July. Starting in February, we in July. Hot July on a boat with a whole bunch of animals and your family. You 5 months in. So it goes on to say in the story that there was a heavy gust of wind and the waters began to recede. And I thought it was funny because it was it says, then God remembered Noah and the animals. Like he didn't turn on the bathtub and then went to go cook something. He was like, oh yeah, the bathtub is overflowing. Let me go cut this off right quick. Like it reminded him that the water was still running. So, he was like, let me cut this off. Let me get the food. So the boat ended up stopping on top of some mountains. I think they said mountains of Ararat.
Yeah, I didn't know how to say that either.
But there was still water everywhere. It just had stopped spewing rain and water fire, basically. So two and a half
Hilarious.
months later, the water was still going down. And then another month and a half after that, Noah was like, oh, let's test it out. So he sent out a raven. The raven was going back and forth because no place for the land. So he sent out a dove. Dove came back, man, ain't no place to land. So then he waited another week, tried again. This time the dove brought back an olive leaf. And so he waited another week, sent the dove back out. This time the dove didn't come back. I guess he was like, he even said, W said, I'm sick and tired of this boat, or he didn't got somewhere, or he just was like, oh yes, it's on and popping. I can live here. One of the three. I'm gonna go with the third. But even still, Noah waited another smooth 2 months before the earth was really dry, and so that they could get off the boat. So that's a little over a year. Him and his family was stuck on this boat with all these animals, and like, I mean, I've been on a cruise before. 5 days is my max. I cannot imagine.
I don't do 5 no more. 3. I do 3-day cruises.
3, you can't really hit multiple places. 5 is
I'm good with 3.
my max. So I can't imagine over a year. But anyway, so ooh child, they finally got off the boat. Nor released the animals. And him and God. Oh, and the first thing he did was make a sacrifice. Boom. Doing the sacrifice. God was like, that's dope. All right. In response, God told Noah that he would never wipe the earth again because of human sin. Cool. So that's basically leading us up to the first part of tonight's reading. I kind of want to cover that first before I move on to the second half.
Okay.
And so when I go into like some of the questions, one of the things, what was it, Genesis 6:4, when it started talking about back in those days, whenever sons of God had intercourse with women, they became children who became heroes and famous warriors of ancient times. And I was like, oh my gosh, Xena Warrior Princess. Like, my first thing.
Hercules.
Who did you think of? I mean, of course, David and Goliath, but like, I thought of
I mean, you can think of Hercules, Xena, and famous people that we hear of that are great warriors that seem to be godlike in their powers and strength, but
no.
big people, big people.
But so where did these big people originally come from?
So they were giants, but they were sons of, so it was like the mixing of the sons of God and the daughters of men. So some people believe like Seth are the descendants of Seth were considered sons of God, and then the daughters of men were, in line from Canaan. So like mixing of bad and good
Created these
at
big
the situation. But then some people think sons of God as in angels, because sons of God that term is referred in Job as like angelical type beings. So some people feel like fallen angels mixed with mankind created these. It started with an N. What is that word? Where is that? Yeah. So those people.
Are they working? Are people here? Have you seen them?
It's people. Yeah, it's people here. I mean, I can't see which people.
No, but I'm saying, like, can you see, like, are they commenting? Can you look in the
Oh no,
comments?
no, they're not commenting yet. But
Okay.
I see that
I just
they're here. I
wanted
can see like a number in the eye, and I can see on YouTube live that they're there. So I'll let you know when they comment, and if it doesn't pop up there, if it pops up there, then I'll just put their comment on the screen. So yeah, fallen angels. So, but that would make sense because if I guess it's the plot of Satan wanting to pollute the pureness of humankind, because Jesus is to come from humankind. Jesus can't be. Oh, there goes Tanisha said that she's here. Let me show you.
I see it there. I just said hi.
Oh, you see it now. Okay. So hold on. Let's not forget the agenda. Every time we forget the agenda.
Well, only one of them can keep it in.
Moving on. So, but yeah. So, I mean, did you get that? Like they were saying, like Satan is trying to pollute the genetic pool of mankind, and so that corruption.
I actually did read that, and so I read the thing about fallen angels first, and then it was combated with, oh no, sons of God means the children of Seth. And so when I was like, okay, well, if they're just children of Seth, then they're just mortal. And then later on in the conversation, when God talks about like repopulating, he says that they're just mere mortals. So to me, if they were really part angel, they wouldn't be mere mortals. Like they would have to be just regular, just.
I mean, but angels aren't gods, so
No, they're not gods, but they're not human. And that's the other thing. What would, other than, and I don't really know, so this is completely off the cuff, other than Satan, what would tempt another angel, considering the fact that you in heaven, kicking it with God, which I consider to be like the ultimate paradise, and you look down here and you see just all this shenanigans occurring, how would you want to come down here and be a part of that, being an angel? And I guess to me, I would equate angel being the closest thing to pure, and like maybe like a middle ground between us and God and Jesus, like the Holy Trinity. They're pretty close up there. I mean, they his right and left hands, maybe cousins, I don't know, but like
so
they're there.
So Lucifer used to be an angel.
Right.
So there are other angels that probably felt how he felt, which is, I want to be like God. So he has followers. So they are still called angels. They are fallen angels. So those are angels that probably left with him or were cast down with him because they had the same beliefs and stuff as he does. So we're not saying like a nice, pure, like,
but then
angel came down and was like, I want to be with a woman. It wasn't probably that situation, but it does make sense of that's why God went through this big old change. Like people been bad. People been bad since sin happened in the garden, but there was no need to like, oh, I'm about to wipe everybody clean. It was like this on some next level type. Y'all tripping now.
Or it had got to like that point where it was just like, yo, it's been 1,000 years. Like I tried to wait it out, but now we 1,000 years in and it's not getting any better. I just cannot. To me, it makes sense as far as them having powers and different things for them to be fallen angels. But because the text says sons of God. And I feel like once they have fallen, they wouldn't have referred to them as that, because they would just be um what they would just be fallen angels, or they would have been, I don't even know what they would have referred to them as. But I did think that that was like, my first thing was just like Xena. I mean, I don't know that much about Greek mythology, but yeah.
I want to
Um,
say what Tamisha said. She was saying that she understood that they fell when Lucifer fell. But I guess what Morgan is saying is that if those are, I don't know if we coined the term fallen angel, because I haven't seen that term in the Bible, but if they are no longer of God, then you wouldn't call them sons of God.
yeah,
Or if that's just what an angel is, you always and forever will be the sons of God, then
that's true.
that's that. But we basically, we really don't know. People have Cain and Seth's people versus fallen angel and humankind. Either way, the mixing of these two breeds of individuals or species created some phenomenal setbacks for mankind, in which sin just went rapid and it would just overload. And God looked at it and was like, nah, do over. So
Can you imagine
I wanted to,
power though?
huh?
Can you imagine having a superpower? Could you even imagine being a giant?
I'm 4'11".
That's why.
I stood on a stool. No, forget stool, because you probably don't know how tall a stool is, but everybody's steps are pretty much the same. I stood on one step, changed my life. I was like, is this what it's like to be tall? Like, I mean, like I go down the steps all the time, but this particular day, I just decided to stop on the step and look around my house. And I was like, it looked so different. So no, I couldn't be a giant. Like these people are like between 7 and 9 feet.
Yeah.
That's too much. What kind of hut? Now you have to use more supplies. Like, how are you having the child of a no? That's not coming out of me.
But I think
No.
people with giantitis, because you know that giantism is a thing. They come out average size, it just grows. So like the baby will come out same size as the regular baby. It's just that they don't.
Be big, like 6 feet at the age of 3. I got time for that. You knocking over everything? No. So, I mean, I did think like you were thinking of like Goliath, like maybe that's where he came from, or maybe that's his lineage of people. But I was really confused with that part, and I've researched it. That's the only two scenarios I have, and you kind of got to pick which one you think goes
Yeah,
along with it. But either way, it produced a horrible situation, and that kind of stemmed the situation of God making the decision like reset.
yeah. And so my next thing was, as I was going through this, because this is our second time going through this story, but I told this story probably, he was probably like 4 at the time when we talked about the flood. And I remember he was scared. And I was like, what are you scared for? But this time, for some reason, as I was reading it, I got it, because it was like a never ending rain. And even if you can swim, you can't swim for a year. I mean, the fish couldn't swim. So how are we supposed to swim? And so as a kid, when you think about pissing off God to the point that he would want to kill you, it's frightening. Like, I'm not a mom, but have you ever been so disappointed in your kid that you literally say, I wish I never made them? Like, and just wipe them out? Like, looking at that from a child's eye, I can see that being interpreted as scary or very, very intimidating, to almost to the point where you're like, oh, I'm not messing with this whole God religion thing, because it's like, I do something he don't like, he gonna take me out.
I guess it depends on your perspective. Everybody definitely probably initially thinks God was so mad that he had to kill people. Like, how did he get so angry? Like, what in the world? Like, sin didn't change. Like, we messing up now. Is he coming back? Like, you can't live with that fear. However, if you look at it from the point of grace, because he didn't kill everybody, he kind of started over with somebody who was more suitable to restart human life. So I guess if you look at it like a story of damnation, like everybody is just gone, versus he gave grace to humankind, like as a whole. Like, yes, he got rid of majority, like 99.9999% of people, but he did still give grace and still have us here, because he could have just been like off some Thanos type of stuff and just reset everybody and just, start it all the way over. But Noah does signify the fact that God gave grace to humankind. So that's still something I think as a kid it's hard to wrap your mind around, but as an adult, I think we can see that we can look at Noah's story as a story of grace versus a story of, man, don't mess with God. I mean, I think you should still fear him. But you also then understand that covenant that he gave at the end. But I mean, I guess we'll get to that point. We will get to that point later. Because that also gives you a peace of mind. Like, whew, I love rainbows. So, but I know that if we can stay in this, I guess this section, it's like 6:6, when it says, so God was sorry. And then I read the notes about how we aren't to take that as like regret, like how you were saying, like God, like wish he never had us type of situation. It was more so sorrow that he felt for the decisions that we made. Like, man, why would this, kind of like in the same situation with your kid, they mess up and they make all these mistakes. And, let's just say something that's not minor, but let's just say something not as drastic as this, but they married the wrong person. It's not like, oh, I wish I never had you. It's like, man, I feel bad. Like your life is going to go down this road that I know that I don't want you to have that much pain in. So it was more of a sorrow instead of I regret ever making them. Like, I messed up. I made a mistake. So it was more of that. So I just wanted to point that out because that hit me. It was like, God was sorry. Oh no, do we serve a God of mistakes? So no, that's not what that meant.
Yeah. So I think I can't remember. I didn't look up which one it was. Is it Evan or Bruce Almighty? It's Evan, right? Evan was the
It was both. So first was Bruce, which was
one
at
was
what's his name?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, Jim Carrey.
Was Steve Carell, but both of them didn't build the boat. I thought both of
They
them.
both built the boat was Evan.
Yeah, that's the same Evan. Yeah, so Evan Almighty, and I remember like in the story, like a lot of people were laughing at him and like kind of like they gathered to like watch this giant spectacle that he was making, but never really didn't really take it serious. And so I guess it's like, all right, when I look back, because I didn't read in the instructions, nowhere did God tell Noah to warn the people.
He really didn't really tell him what he was doing at first. Noah was in the
Okay,
dark for a minute. He didn't
right.
know.
So, all right. He just said, just do these things. But like, he didn't say warn the people or anything like that. So if you had this type of information, like we kind of do as Christians, we are charged with information like, yo, eventually this gonna be the end and we gotta go on to something else. You best to get right.
Mm-hmm.
In this situation, the end's real near, like a week away.
Week away. So your wife like, do you like my hair? How you like this brooch? It don't matter. You think I look bad? That does not matter. Believe me.
Yeah.
Don't bother with that.
So do you tell people so at least they can repent and try to get right? Or at that point, because God had already made up his mind, do you think it would have even mattered? And also, if Noah would have went back, because I mean, was it this is later on, we haven't even got there. But remember the story of whose wife looked back?
Ham's.
Was it
Lot or Ham?
I think it was Lot.
Okay.
But remember, whoever it was just like, oh, can I please find if I find one person, can you save? Because it was Sodom and Gomorrah. If I find one person,
Abraham, I think, was saying like, one person in Sodom and Gomorrah, and God was like, if you can find one.
if Noah would have been like, I told my man at the wood shop what was good, he sat down, he prayed, and he repented. Can he get on the boat?
I personally, we don't know how much space you mess around and tell somebody something. No, 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 no. Elephants are big, man. Elephants, elephants had to make it on the boat. Elephants are big. So um, I'm just assuming that I wouldn't have said anything because you create this big spark of panic in people and then you give them false hope. Like, would you rather know a flood is coming and you're gonna die, or just wake up one day and you in heaven, or you just poof? I don't know. Like, I would rather not know. So it might give them a disservice to tell them. That's what I'd be telling myself. I don't want to worry you with that. Like, you might be like, oh, okay, Kelly, you bought the wood. See you tomorrow. I don't want to lie to you, but maybe. Like,
You would feel compelled to tell anybody.
no,
No.
I wouldn't tell
And then
nobody.
was so, and I think this might have been, I had this question for later. But all right. One of the things that I kind of took away from this was like Noah's obedience beyond just him building everything to the T.
Yeah,
But
I
he
highlighted
was
that.
mad trill when it came to like listening to God, and he gave him that mission. So if God came to you and was like, Kelly, build this boat, it's only take you, your husband, and your kids, you gonna leave your moms? Knowing what's about to happen, you
No,
legit
but he
just
didn't know. And maybe that's why God didn't tell him until it was a little too late. Because I feel like it's human nature to be like, I need to grab everything I can because I don't think there's going to be, can we have Netflix on the boat? Like, it's just you trying to grab everything that you can that's near and dear to you, scrapbooks and pictures and all types of stuff.
says that
And
it says,
I think that,
that that's what he was going to do before Noah started building. He said, God told Noah, I've decided to destroy all living creatures. Build a boat.
okay. So my notes say, throw the whole earth away. But it says build a large boat. But yes, so I think, me personally, I would definitely want to tell. But if it was God telling, it's different than if you were to tell me, like, let's just say we work for the CIA and you said, Kelly, it's about to go down. I feel like you just gave me the green light to tell who I love. And I'm sure they feel like they can tell who they love and who they love. And, everybody loves somebody that they would want to say, the CIA said it's about to go down. So, I mean, it would still bring about this trickle effect of panic. So I would say no, and hoping that, everybody I love already had themselves together and I was just chosen to go forward, knowing that it wasn't going to be easy either. It's not like, the easy route is not just because you were, blessed to be on the boat. You was on the boat for a year. We can't even hardly stay in the house during the pandemic for a couple months. Imagine being on a boat. As a matter of fact, there are some people on boats, on cruise ships during this situation, feeling like Noah. But no, I feel like in my heart, no. But that's me knowing more of the story. I can't really say like in that moment. But then you got to think of who's talking to you. God is telling you. I probably would have asked though. And if God would have said no, you can't. You got to shoot your shot. Like, so God, did you mean my wives, my sons, well, my wife, my sons, their wives, and my mama?
I feel like I would have even been afraid to ask because I'm like, I ain't about to push my luck because I say my mama, and he be like, all right, you
But I'll
got
be
it.
like, never mind, wrong person. Next, God swiping, swiping through people.
Like, yo, I would be so nervous to ask, can I get an extendo invite? Can I get a plus one? Like, I would be so nervous. Like, but it would literally probably tear me up. But then on the flip side, because maybe I can do the math. He was 600. When did his dad die?
I know that he
Love
was
was
600 when he
900.
started, 601 when they was finished.
So Lamech lived to 777, and he had
Somebody
oh no, so
said 182.
his parents weren't alive. Lamech,
182.
no, Lamech had Noah. When?
He was 182 and he became a father.
Okay.
And then he died and when he was 777.
Right. So 182 plus he said 595 years. So his parents and Noah got this message at 600. So 5 years too late.
So you just try to say he picked somebody that didn't have no other ties to the individual. So that gave him peace of mind. So there you go. Mom and dad already gone.
I mean, they just said his father, but we're going to assume the mom was gone too. Because somebody, especially if her husband is gone, somebody has to take care of her.
It ain't Noah. But anyway. But I did highlight that. It said twice. So Noah did everything exactly as God had commanded him. And that was in 6:22. And then in 7:5, so Noah did everything as the Lord commanded him. Every time God spoke to him, he did exactly everything. Exactly everything. That's like absolute.
Yeah.
Like there was no wiggle room for how we having this conversation. That was not even a thought in his head. He was like, "Oh, God said ABC, boom."
Yeah.
And was no doubt in his mind. So I thought that was amazing. I was like, wow. So yeah, everything we thinking, that wasn't even a thought for him. So God said everything that had life had to be wiped out.
I thought it was interesting or noted in this section where it said that they needed to take food that was also approved for eating and food that was approved for sacrifice. And I know we talked about this before, but it was basically animals that were viewed as clean. So not the pork. I'm assuming the chicken. That's probably it.
Maybe. Yeah, I saw a comic. Let me tell you about a comic. So I saw a little comic strip about Noah, and it has all the little animals 2 by 2, like you see when you're a little kid. And then you got the chickens in the back looking around like 2. Why is it 20 of us? I was cracking up. The chicken was plentiful. They had a whole bunch of chicken. Everybody else was 2 by 2. I was like, and then there was animals. There were animals that were designated for offering as well. So
yeah,
the goats probably was looking around like it's a little bit more of us too. Somebody ain't gonna be here at the end of this ride. But yeah, so we were talking about the how the flood rescinded with a gust of wind. I had that as a note as well. Like I was like, wow. And that it landed on top of a mountain. So that made me think like that's a huge boat. Like that's an artifact. Like where is it now? So I was looking up like where could it be? And a lot of people are feeling like it was left at the top of a mountain. And I was like, I just would have thought if that was the case, it would have had somewhere in here that they trucked down a mountain to get back on regular land. But I know that everything isn't necessarily laid out in text. So I don't know if that's true. Like people have climbed certain mountains and said that they've seen it, have brought down pieces of it and things like that. Some people on their deathbed that denied it the whole time. And like on their deathbed said that it was true and they just didn't want other people to find it because proving that the ark was false. So I mean,
that's an interesting life's work.
Yeah, I mean, other people do other things like search for the Titanic, thinking that was a false story, and then they found it finally. So
like on Connected when she was digging for poop, I was like, that's an interesting job.
Couldn't be me. But so yeah, I thought that was real interesting to like try to draw it back and see like, oh, well, where is it? Where could it be? Yeah. So some people think still on the mountaintop.
But I think it's
Armenia
to note that it's not like at the tip of the mountain. Just
no, it's not.
It's like mountains have mass to them, so it could just be like on a ledge.
Yeah.
Like and Yeah.
Yeah, not night at the peak.
One wrong, one second gust of wind and it's all over.
Is that the ark? No. Coming down
Yeah.
Mount such and such. No. So I wanted to have some bullet points. So 6-1, it's the exploding of population. And then 6-2 is sexual perversion and demonic activity between like, people, if that's the route you want to take, or you can just take good and bad people mixed together. And then you see the widespread of corruption and violence in 6-12, and then 6-13, throw the whole earth away. So it went real quick. Like chapter 6 got straight to the point. The earth was no more. so that was, a little. I mean, and then some people get confused on the size of the ark. I don't know if that is really a matter for me, but some people are like all these animals, and so some people feel like it's species that were invited onto the ark, and like how did Noah do it? And it was like Noah's position was to build it, and as far as the animals, I feel like they were called by God to like, I don't know about him wrangling up large cats like tigers and lions and everybody. They traveled on their own to wherever he was. And then I remember I didn't really see, I don't know, did I see it in here? I remember reading, oh no, it is in here. It's in our study Bible about I don't remember where it was. It's not in here, but somebody said, "Oh, the flood was not the whole earth. Like it didn't,
I did
because Noah couldn't have populated the
it for a
whole
second.
earth." And I was like, "It says earth." I mean, like so. In our study Bible, it basically points out like the reason for the flood was to destroy sin and wickedness over the earth. Wouldn't a big flood have to do something like that? Like, why rent out a town versus the whole world? And that's the way that the story shows. So that's the way that I'm believing that it happened. I don't think like he just wiped out PG.
So the way that I kind of put it together, and I didn't do any research, it's just the way my brain works. So I equated it because later when we get to post flood and that they're charged with repopulating and it breaks out where the different clans ended up going and inhabiting, to me, I likened it or tied it into, and I know that science and religion oftentimes butt heads, but maybe in this time, this was when everything was one continent, one land, and we were just amassed by all this water. So it's easy to cover up one massive piece of land than spread out pieces of land all over. And then at a later point in time is when an earthquake or whatever happened that actually separated everything into the different continents. At least that's what I feel like is visually acceptable to me and in my reading.
I
Because
mean,
I
I
do
can see that. I see how they all fit. Like Africa definitely looks like it fits right there. Like, but I just don't know when that break happened. Like, did it
yeah,
happen?
I mean, it's not gonna be noted, but to me, that's what makes sense in my head, considering the fact that, I mean, I guess since Noah built a boat, that all of them could build a boat, possibly, but because they ended up so spread out, I believe that it's easier for them to have been on one land, some type of natural disaster, rather than for them to just walk away, build all these boats, and decide, oh, I'm going here, or I'm going there, I'm going there. But I could be completely wrong. I never looked into it. That's just how I like to merge my religion and scientific knowledge into one.
Okay.
My last note from this section was that I thought it was interesting that God used the flood waters to basically rid the world of its sin. And I was like tied it into, oh, this was the beginning of the use of water for purifying or cleansing sin, like when you go through like a baptism or like
That's interesting.
yeah, like holy water, like just the power of water and how it has the ability to wash over us and cleanse us of a sin. Now this was a massive sin, so we had to use a lot of water. But for individuals, you go into the pool or the Jordan River, or you just for babies, you just swim on. So that's kind of how I tied it together. And I don't know if that's fact based, but I felt like it resonates because it carries through like that tradition of water to cleanse sin goes far beyond just the flood, just on a smaller scale.
I like that symbolism. I didn't think of that, but I definitely like it. I like that. I like that tying together.
Yeah.
Um, I think my note that I have that as far as symbol was the dove with the leaf, and how that's like now a symbol of peace and goodness, because that is what gave him the sign that, oh, there must be land. I don't know what happened to that raven. He was like deuces.
I mean,
Never
Edgar
came
Allan Poe told us about the ravens. Nah.
back. Raven just never came back. But that doesn't mean that he didn't find land. It's like he found land and was like, I'm gonna keep it to myself. Well, I'm good. I don't know. Maybe he got ate by something. We don't know. But the dove came back and showed that there was land. So they was like, okay, but then they still had to stay there for a period of time because God told him he can get on the boat, but God didn't tell him he can get off the boat. So he waited for God to tell him he can get off the boat. I know he was anxious, but he still listened. Good old Noah.
I also think that the raven, I feel like ravens are more of a nocturnal brood, so he might have found like a cave or a crevice to build a nest. But a dove, I feel like, is more land bound. So he found a leaf, which means that they're trees. Trees ain't up in the mountains, not a lot of them anyway. So cool. Let me give it a little while longer. Because if he made it here, then I know I need a little while longer to get something that's off the ground, a piece of grass, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I hearkened it. But yeah. So if there's no comments from you, Patreons, you cookies, we'll go into the next section, which talks about repopulating the earth. All right. So where's my section? Oh, all right. So finally, God told Noah his son. So he has three sons: Shem, Ham, and Japheth, to be fruitful and multiply and repopulate the earth. Like that was their job. I saved you for this one thing because you really not that amazing. But here you go. And I thought to myself, at least they had a head start this time and did not have to be like with their sisters. Like they could at least do cousins, distant cousins. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same as before. And again, he solidified humans at the top of the chain. So he gave animals to us, basically saying you can use them as food. They should fear you. So yes. Oh, I forgot to mention the other part. I did mention the other part about what you should eat, clean animals and not clean animals. But here it basically says, because I know Kelly and I have been going back and forth about what we're supposed to eat in the Bible. Because back then I said Adam and Eve said veggies and fruits only. But here clearly in Genesis 9:3, he gives animals to us and along with grains and vegetables to eat as food, as long as we cook them first. We're not supposed to
Eat
do
raw.
anything with live raw blood on it. And on top of that, God basically reinforced what he said to Noah as far as like, I'm not going to wipe y'all out no more, with the covenant of the rainbow. So a lot of people love rainbows. I thought about the was it a myth about the pot of gold? But essentially,
Oh yeah.
has a pot of gold because the pot of gold is that the rain is over. You're welcome. So, um, yeah, and I thought that was neat of God to do because, again, forgive me, y'all, I'm just human. But if I'm Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and you charge me with repopulating the earth, and I do all this work of repopulating, and then one day
All this work.
you wake up mad again, and just be like, wipe them out again. Yo, we just got the population up. Like, what is it? So I think that was super dope for him to be like, rest assured, the fruits of your labor will not be swiped.
They will not be drowned.
Yeah, will not be drowned. Um,
So
so
he
because
said, never again curse the ground
yeah,
because of the human race. So
yeah,
as long as the earth remains.
he said, even though I know that basically they trash and they can't help themselves, and this is gonna be a hot mess again. He said, even though I'm still not gonna wipe them out. So he already knew that he wasn't going to get that, I guess, pure starter point that he wanted, or not that he wanted, but because clearly his first creation was pure, Adam and Eve. And 1,000+ years later, it got him to the point that he got so frustrated he needed to wipe everything out. But to know that he basically said that the human race is just bent on being evil. And I found that to be very sad, that like, not that he didn't believe in us, but that we distribute or displayed attributes that let him know that he ain't had no chance of getting back his pure bloodline, for lack of a better word.
So if I could, I mean, God like set out these rules kind of, um, and it looked like when I was reading, I was like, oh, capital punishment. He said it's okay.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Definitely getting there. We can go there right now. So he did that, and then he basically came out with he was like, blood spilled requires blood spilled. An animal kills a human, animal got to go. If a human kills a human, first human got to go. I was like, I don't know. That's a big change from what he did to Cain when he just, ain't nobody gonna touch you, going out here, boy. Like,
I mean, but that was God doing that for one individual. I guess we don't know what kind of sin was going on in the time before the flood. Like maybe they were like just, killing each other, raping each other, beating each other, stealing from each other, doing a whole bunch of stuff. And he's like, for all of those who are trying to, I guess, not avenge, I guess you got to have some kind of law and order that says, you're not going to just leave it up to God to snap his fingers and take the person out. Like y'all have to have a judicial system. And I guess I mean, for all those who don't like capital punishment, is definitely right there. Because I was like, I mean, that's me. I really don't. I don't think that capital punishment is the way. Like people change their ways, people can be redeemed, people can get second chances, but then that's until somebody do something to somebody you love, and then you might, change your mind and feel like, oh, off with their head. So it's a lot of just feelings, but it's right there. I mean, that probably changes. We haven't gotten through the whole Bible.
right, because people probably wilding. I'm not necessarily okay. I'll say this, and it's probably gonna sound weird. I'm not a proponent for capital punishment. Like I'm not like, yay, kill everybody. There'll be times when I'll be like, oh, they don't need to be allowed. But then I know that like, if it's up to me, I wouldn't be the person who would want to kill someone else. Yes. So, because at the end of the day, you are, even though it's for justice, you still are killing. I wouldn't want to do that. And I wouldn't want to put that burden on someone else's spirit, even in the name of justice. So at that point, it is like, what do you do? I watched a video the other day where, was it in Islam, where a guy was convicted of raping a little girl and they stoned him to death. Like the entire community all came and stoned him to death. So it wasn't just one person. They all came together and they just threw rocks at him until he died. And I was like, I mean, I guess that's one way to do it. So they're doing it. They're making a community choice and everybody is joining in the justice system. But I feel like I would still feel bad.
I mean, some people feel that, and some people feel like, are
And
you
not
saving the next child? Is how some other people look at it. Like, are you saving the next person or the next child? Or are you not giving somebody a chance to redeem themselves and be the best person for society they could have been? Because a lot of people have turned their lives around and be like, oh, you added greatly. Like people have wonderful stories of how they used to be this and now they're this, and they've added so much to the community, though they did all these other things. So I'm not in a position to do that. I could not be a judge. That's why they sit up there and they make those calls. But I mean, I'm for forgiveness, but that's probably, again, me not really being in that situation. I have not greatly been affected by something like that to say. But remember, the cop that She shot the gentleman in his home. And when she went to court, the judge hugged her, and the brother of the deceased hugged her and forgave her. Some people thought that was a display of wonderful care and love, and some people were like enraged, like that was their blood that got spilled. So everybody has their own point of view on it, and I think both could be justified. Do we forgive a person and let them become, better, or do we say, hey, you, if we set the tone of you make one mistake and you're out of here, would that be a greater society? Like people won't be like, I'm not gonna slip up because I steal something, they cut off my hand. I bet you they do not have a lot of thieves in that area.
Yeah, I definitely see so in that situation, I see the quote unquote benefit of forgiving the woman for him, because you don't want to walk like forgive like anger and harnessing resentment and bitterness, like those things wear on your personal spirit. You're doing it more so for yourself than for the other person. But I definitely wouldn't just let her free. Like, no, I do think that you have an action and there's a reaction. You should be punished. I just don't know if everything is literally eye for an eye. I guess that's where mine is blurred. My line is kind of blurred. Um, but yeah, I read that and I was like, yo, this crazy.
Yeah. I mean, then I read it. I wrote that in my note. I was like, capital punishment. But I would really want to get to how we have all these wonderful things to say about our man Noah.
Oh, hold on, yeah. So, all right, fast forward a little bit.
But then stuff happens.
So one day Noah got too turned up, got a little loose, and got naked, fell asleep in his tent. He in his own tent, he in his own hut. He has the right to be naked. So Ham walked in on him and he saw his dad naked, and he went out to tell his brothers. And the two others, Shem and Japheth, they basically walked backwards into their dad's tent and covered him with a robe. When Noah woke up, he was enraged, and he cursed Ham's son, Canaan, to be the servant of all his relatives. And I was very surprised, because maybe it was my interpretation, or maybe it's just the way that our Bible has it written, but walking in on him, why was that so absurd to the point that it has to be like this drastic curse? And on top, but basically it was just seen as a sign of respect, or like maybe when they say, oh, he saw him and he told his brothers, he was like making fun of him, or like, oh, that's really, or whatever it is, but it was seen as disrespect. But again, what did Canaan do? He was minding his business. Like, I feel so bad for Canaan. He just minding his business. And I just, from that situation, I took away a couple of things. Because again, well, let's start with first. Number one, Noah got drunk and clearly he had a temper. Maybe it was built up after being on a boat with his family for so long. But when you think about that, the fact that he was not perfect, God chose Noah because he was just the best candidate. It wasn't because he was like this.
You got the A in the bad class.
Like, yeah, everybody else is getting the F and you getting the C. It's you. Like, but also even in those situations, it just goes to show you that God can use anybody, regardless as to
Definitely.
and you can definitely be like a hot mess, but you can still have a purpose that God has you here to fulfill.
I think that is so encouraging, because a lot of people walk around thinking that they're not worthy of God's blessing and God's hand on their lives. And it's like, do you not know David's story? Like, do you not remember who Paul used to be? Like, I like that. There was the only person in the whole Bible that was perfect was Jesus. So I think that's something that everybody can relate to. So I like that, they show Noah being like, even Job, they show Job doing all this good stuff. And then Job started kirking out. The same thing with Noah. Noah, this, that, and the other. Noah's real obedient. Noah's perfect. And my note says, after being on the boat for a year, The first thing Noah did was plant a vineyard. I mean, of course, he made the altar and stuff like that. But I mean, we can assume that he did plant some vegetables, but he couldn't wait for this wine. I said, and then that's the first mention of being drunk in the whole Bible. So it kind of does set a tone for like how you are not supposed to put yourself in a state of not being able to take care of yourself. But I think that's what happened is that he went in there and he saw his father, and then he clowned him in front of everybody else, kind of like diminishing his status in the family. And so Noah got mad. I do not. I have researched. I went on YouTube. I went on Google. Message in the sky. I looked up. I didn't see anything about why poor little Canaan got the fist on this whole situation. I was like, was you there? Like, imagine you playing with your Legos and you look up. Did Father Noah say me? Father Noah.
I do.
Like, I was over here the whole time. So
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been like he was involved and we just don't know, or that was Ham's punishment. Like for somebody to be so mad at you that they skip you and you have to see your spouse, I mean, not your spouse, see your child suffer. That's a lot. I don't know what it is about. I don't know if Noah just saw that that was going to happen, period, because who, without disrespecting Noah, but like, who is he to kind of curse somebody? Like, did he just point and was like, I curse you and I curse everybody after you. You ain't gonna be nothing. Your daddy ain't nothing, and your kids ain't gonna be nothing. Like, how does Noah?
I don't think so. It's a curse, but I think at that point, since Noah is still head of the situation, he basically just assigned Canaan, "Hey, you be their butler," and so that was just a status shift. So it's a curse, but it's really just okay. Now you are going to be forced to be their servant, and any kids that you have, and it was just law. It wasn't necessarily a curse, like they couldn't do anything else. It was a out of respect, I have to follow this new way of life.
So did you hear that Black people were considered descendants of Canaan, and that's why we went through a whole bunch of anguish, or we are going through a whole
Yeah,
bunch.
and it talks about it in our Bible about how it's some people have said that this is like a racial type of situation, but it's not. That's what they said in the study Bible. But then the section basically goes on because we can wrap up with this, and it goes on to break down the lineage of the three brothers into the many clans that populated the earth. And each of the descendants basically spread out and were separated by language, clan, and basically the nation that they identified with. And so you see that some went to the Semites, were Abraham, David, and Jesus descended from Shem. Ham's descendants settled in Canaan, Egypt, and the rest of Africa. Japheth's descendants settled for the most part in Europe and Asia Minor. So, like, if you've seen a map, I don't have a map, but from where they were, how did they get over there unless it was all kind of one space that separated, unless they just was building boats just left and right, possibly. Can't put it past them. But I thought that was sad, and I thought about it in relation to like my own family about how when you think about generations ago, people used to have like 14 and 15 kids, and all the families used to be together. And then now it's like you have your immediate family, that's your new nation, your new clan, and you're not as tight with basically people who you should be tight with.
Your family. Yeah. I don't know why it's like that. I mean, your guess is good as mine on the descendants and how, I mean, then it gets, we didn't go into that, but that kind of sets the tone for the scattering of people and how they want to come together and reach heaven type of thing. We honestly probably should have done that because it's like a couple of chapters and then we're done with, we go into God's chosen family, which for me,
I mean, you want to hit it real quick? You go
so
ahead.
that was like the best part, not the best part, but so far it was like really interesting to read Abram and those.
I mean, it's not that much to talk about.
Yeah,
Basically,
so go ahead. Basically, it's a tower that you're trying to build.
scattered. They started doing great things. I mean, the world is here. They're flourishing. They wanted to build this great tower and be very famous for building this tower that reached up to the heavens. And um, there's a point, and I don't know if you guys were around for our first Cookies in Christ, where we talked about this version of us. In the text, it specifically says, look, the people are united and they're going to basically come get us. They're too close to us. And that's crazy because who is the us that they're too close to? We had that talk episodes ago, or where are we calling these episodes?
Yeah, I started calling them episodes.
Um,
So we were
yeah,
saying, like, is it us as in God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit,
yeah,
or us as in everybody in heaven, like
yeah,
angels,
heaven. Because
seraphim, cherubim, all of them up there?
yeah. So basically they looked down and was like, oh no, they're too strong as a nation together. So basically, like what's the guy's name? Thanos. Snap the fingers,
Oh,
and
Thanos.
now they can't understand each other, and so they couldn't communicate, and it's just like mayhem. Like, I was just talking to you, now you can't. Why are you speaking Guala Guala? Like, what is happening? It just discombobulated the whole thing, and the people started to scatter amongst people that spoke the same language as them. Yeah, that's cray cray.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought that was interesting. I kind of came from the point of it almost sound like fear. Like, oh no, this is about to happen and we can't let this happen. Um, and I didn't really dive into that a lot, but that was what came to mind. That was the tone that I got. I don't think that that was the true tone. Like, I don't think God was. I know God is not fearful of us. So, but it just sounded. It just came off like that. Like, but I don't think we ever would have made it. Like, I just don't know any tower structurally. Like, I'm not an engineer, but I mean, I watched a little Lego show, and it's hard to build something strong enough to kind of get up there. Like, I mean, at this point, did we even build a bridge before? Um, but is that possibly like the pyramids? Like, I don't
What they
know.
were gonna do? Maybe.
They
Um,
should they started to get a little thin at the top. If you had that thing had to be massive wide in order to do that. So
what you think about? Who would think that someone was able to build a boat to take two of everything? Clearly, it's possibly done. And is the Abraham? Noah didn't really have that much help, and he was able to do this.
I
So
mean, I'm not doubting that they can build something great. We build stuff right now, like Statue of Liberty. We built the Titanic. Like, I mean, we're doing big things, but heaven, heaven, it depends because some people feel like heaven is like the stratosphere. Like, there's different layers. Like, you mean heaven like beyond the clouds, heaven as in the atmosphere, like beyond the blue, and then there's just air, like where the Empire State Building is at. Because if that's the case, we've made it. So it just depends on. And I mean, then you get into scientific things like the air getting real thin up there. So I mean, at some point in time, you're gonna pass out. So unless you just start at the mountain and start building from there. So I mean, and then the whole
bricks.
everybody talking different languages, huh?
I said, I mean, they said bricks.
Yeah.
Let's
So I
make
mean, I took that story as being interesting, not necessary as a you know a challenge, but it is like I see how we all are now separated, and yeah, that was all I really got out of the story of Tower of Babel. Yeah, that was all. So if we were to go next into the story of Abraham for next
So
episode.
basically, from that also we start with how, because it was Shem, correct? Yeah. So basically, we start with Shem and through the generations, and then we lend up to Abram, which is going to take us to the next section of the Bible, which is God's chosen family.
I love this story. Like, I was so into this. Well, I like this, and then when I got into Job, I like Job a lot too. Sorry about that. But so I guess we can do one. Well, one, I guess one and two. Let me see. So one is the call of Abram, and then Sarai. But then we talk about how Abram and Lot get separated, and Abram rescues Lot. Is that when they talk about Sodom and Gomorrah? Yeah. So you want to do basically one and two.
I mean, that's on you. You next week.
Let me see. Yeah, I guess one and two. That sounds. I mean, if we get the one and we just in there, then I guess one. But I don't see why we can't do one and two. Um, yeah. So let me put that on the screen.
I'm worried. Were we boring today? People run into it. This COVID got you down. Is what is
No,
it?
we were boring. We were never boring.
Being teachers got you guys overwhelmed.
I have lessons that I have to do tonight. I do like
I feel
we
like
need to
teaching
wrap
with
this up.
kids not being.
But yeah, it could be not necessarily everybody being a teacher, but just school period.
That's
Like
what I say. Not teaching just being home with your kids and making sure they on top of their
sections.
game.
Well, so it stops at 14:24. All right, that's what's next. All right, so we got Genesis 12 through 14:24. That don't seem like a lot, but I mean, it is two sections of our Bible. So,
I went through like 20 pages today.
huh?
Said I went through like 20 pages today.
Let us count. Let's name Abel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is a study Bible. So half the page is notes of the studying. One,
It was
two,
7 pages.
three, four. I mean, what you want me to do? 3, 2? The promises.
Ah, that's what we have time for. Let's shoot for 1 and 2. We can be prepared for 3 if we have extra time.
Okay, yeah, I definitely
Cause
read it. Look at my notes. It's all colorful in here. Can you see it? So I got a lot to say. Okay, so that's all. Thank y'all for
we
coming.
didn't do our intro, so I guess we can do it on our
I didn't
outro.
even tell my
Thank you
cookies
guys for watching. Cookies.
and Grace. Oh, let me look at my cookie. I have a whole bunch of cookies right here. So I like store brand cookies. I have chocolate chip one.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. I done already ate like 5 of them. What brand is that?
Toll House.
Oh, you got fresh cookies. I ain't have time for that.
Um, offline, I have to tell you about how somebody had all this empathy. Their significant other threw out their cheesecake, but couldn't relate that to throwing away my cookies. And I was like, oh, so when it's your homie or them, when it's me, he's like, you still talking about these cookies? I ain't mad. I'm just emphasizing and remembering.
Mm-mm. I don't think I can love somebody who threw my cookies in the trash. I think our relationship would be completely over.
God forgives, so do I.
I don't remember reading nowhere in this text where he forgave somebody for throwing out some cookies. I think he drew the line right there.
Mm. Bye, people. Oh, I did flashers.
You're gonna have to work on your bars.